Okay, we are live. Hello, Illuvium fans. This is part 2 of our Tatopee painting. Hopefully I've sorted out some issues we had last week. The mic wasn't very good. I think I've got the mic working a bit better. Anyway, here's the progress. Where we left off last week, Wrinkle here was just getting a coat of varnish, so you probably can't tell the difference in the colour, but the varnish does slightly change the way the model looks. It's a satin varnish I use, it's a spray-on varnish, and it's been pretty hard to actually get the varnish on him because spray-on varnishes can ruin the model if the weather's really bad, so any humidity, cold temperatures, even high temperatures as well. So we were lucky to get the coat on him because it's been hot and humid for quite a while. But it turned out all right, he's looking good, and we should be able to handle the model now, so I can hold the top of the model without rubbing any paint off. So yeah, he's ready to go. We're gonna today, hi Katniss, thanks for joining. So today we're gonna work on the underside of the model, the pink and the tan skin. You can see from our little picture on the left there. Yeah, so we're probably going to do the pink first and then the tan, and then I might do some edge highlights on the shell of the model, and we'll see what else we can get. We might try and tackle the eyes. I'm a bit up in the air on the eyes because there's a lot of texture problems with the eyes due to the printing process, and I do have a technique I'd like to use that looks kind of cool, but I'm not sure it'll work with the texture on the eyes, and the paint might not flow right. So that might be interesting. Might have a think about that one for next week, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, let's get started. So first colour today, I'm going to do the pink skin. All I've got for that is this one, so we'll give it a go. It's not a base coat paint, so we might need to do quite a few coats in order to get it dark enough, but we'll see how we go. I don't suppose you can tell if the mic's better this week, Katniss. I know that was an issue for some last week. So this is Emperor's Children, which is like a pinky colour. Should be a good base for his skin. We might put some white in there for a second coat if it's too dark. I don't know how strong the pigment is with this colour, so not sure how many layers we'll have to do. We'll find out shortly. Bit of water to the mix. Might actually use a smaller brush for this because we don't want to mess up the undercoat or the shell. This one might do, hopefully. Oh, thanks, Katniss. Let's adjust that camera. A bit more organised this week. Organised disorganisation. There we go. Yeah, this is quite a translucent paint, so we'll have to use several coats, I think. Try not to make a mess of the underside as well, because we do want to paint. Although I think that like the tan colour, the bottom part of his skin's painted, will go over pink pretty well, so it might not be too much of an issue. Usually you want to be careful with paints. Some paints have a higher pigment than others, so they can paint over other colours easier, and others have a higher pigment or a lower pigment count and they can't do that. So this is quite a low pigment paint, you can tell, because the grey is coming through, so it'll need a couple of coats. Helps to have a good brush too, or a good tip on your brush. Much easier with a model this size. The detail's not hard to get to. And this is why I undercoated him, or I varnished him during the week, or this afternoon. That way, when I'm manipulating the model or moving him around like this, I'm not rubbing paint off the parts I've already worked on. I always say, and this is for anyone who might watch this and think, oh wow, this is cool, I'd like to do that one day. Painting's actually really easy. What I'm doing here isn't actually hard. It's just about learning little tricks in order to manipulate the paint in the way you want to. So, I mean, a steady hand helps, but with a little bit of practice, that's not hard to get. G'day Harbinger, thanks for joining. I don't know whether we'll tackle the eyes tonight, Harbinger. I could. We'll see how we go for time. Sometimes when I've gotten a portion of a model done, this is kind of weird. Oh, well, it's not that weird, but once I've got a big chunk of the model done, I sort of hit, I call it a creativity block, where I sort of don't want to do any more. And sometimes you come up with an idea when you're not painting, you're like, oh yeah, I can do it this way and that might work better. And that's sometimes what I do. Sometimes I'll just sit there and stare at the model because I sort of want to keep going, but I've hit that block, and I'm not going to get any more work done. But sometimes you think of an idea while you're doing that, so probably be a pretty boring stream if I just sat there staring at the model though. So I might leave that for another day. We'll see how we go. I've got a technique I use for painting lenses or eyeballs or gems. It would probably work really well on eyes. I'm just not sure it's going to work well on these eyes because they're quite a bit bigger. But I mean, if it doesn't work, I can always paint over it. So maybe we will try it. probably use a tiny bit more water. Maybe a bit too much water. So the thinner you paint, the more water you add, the smoother the paint job will be, which is usually a good thing. But if you get too thin, obviously you've got to do 100 coats, which isn't a good thing. But the paint can also run, which isn't a good thing. So you want to get it right. There's a bit of a funny spot there where the printer didn't make the detail right. Yeah, it was a bit of a rush to get ready tonight. Dinner was ready about 20 minutes before the stream started. And I watched Scoriox's download. So I sort of smashed dinner down and run out to the shed to get the stream started. So we're a little bit late. Yeah, so the eye shine technique I use, it's almost a trick of the eyeball, and it works well on small models. I'm not sure how it'll go on a big model like this. Of course, I could just paint it exactly like it is in the picture, just a black pupil and a little iris and a tiny bit of white. That could work as well. I think that'll be our fallback method if it doesn't work. Okay. Not sure how that's coming out on the camera, but in person it looks like it needs another coat. It's a tricky spot to get into and keep in focus. Okay, that's the front. And I think this raised part on the tail, I think we'll do that pink too. That looks like it'd flow under his shell and come out there, and it's just this bottom part that's tan. So the shell was really easy to paint because it was all using techniques like the base coat's obviously very easy, and because it's such a large area I could just brush the paint on. But with this lower section we're sort of having to be a little more detailed and avoid painting over things we've already painted or going into the detail on the bottom. I've been playing Path of Exile 2 during the week. Came out last weekend. And I've got to say I'm pretty impressed so far. Oh, that detail's quite hard to see. I think I racked up 20 hours in the first 2 days, which is quite ridiculous. Couple of late nights. Really fun game if you're interested. Okay, that's the tail. Hopefully the front's dry enough to put another coat on. Looks pretty good. So we'll start our second coat straight away. It's nice when that happens. Usually when I'm painting, I wouldn't paint a single model very often by itself. Usually I'm painting a squad of models. So you sort of just pick one bit to work on, and you paint that one bit on all the models one at a time, and by the time you come back, by the time you finish the last model, the first one's dry and you can move on to the next one. Probably not going to work like that with a single Tatopee, but it is a pretty big model, so. And it is hot as hell in this shed right now. Yeah, I'm stuck on a boss in the second act at the moment. I haven't played in a couple of days now, probably because I played it a bit too much. But yeah, stuck on. I think he's the final boss in Act 2, but I will go back to it. I just don't know when. That's looking way better with the second coat. Could potentially do a third coat. Probably wouldn't hurt. Close that. Tail's nice and quick at least. See, the other benefit of thinned out paints is they dry a lot faster too. So yeah, the front, that's almost dry. That'll be dry in a few more minutes. Oh, I haven't got the best connection tonight. 22% dropped frames. Probably all right because we're just running the camera. But if we were gaming, it probably wouldn't be too good. So he's almost dry. I think we will do one more coat of the pink. Just one more, because it's quite a thin coat. All right, we can start on one side and it'll be dry by the time we get around there. Oh, I haven't done his little pimples either. I should probably do them. You know, this is a cheap brush I just got from the local hobby shop. It's not even branded. It's got the name of the hobby shop on it. And it is so good. It's one of the best brushes I've used of this size in a very long time. Quite amazed. It's like a $10 brush. That's a really good find. I mean, I wouldn't use it for any fine detail work, but yeah, it's quite impressive. I might actually have to have a look, see if I can find some other brushes from them. Just goes to show, it pays to try new products. You never know what you'll find. You don't know what you don't know. Going for a crimson shade. I am tempted to put a pink wash all over the pink, like a darker pink, to create a little bit of shade, and then we could put a minor highlight on it. It's not quite the same pink as the image we got on the left there. Almost looks like there's a little bit of red in that pink, like a little bit of redness to like the eyelids. Don't know whether we'll do that, but the shade might add to that. I don't know if I got a pink shade. Oh, hang on, an old pot. That might do. Crimson, or Carroburg Crimson. Probably have to water that down because that's quite a dark red. But we could try that. See, this is quite a big brush, and I can even paint these tiny little pimples with it because the tip's quite good, although it is starting to get that curve. I don't know whether you can see that. Just starting to get a tiny little curve in it, which is sort of the thing you'd expect from a cheap brush. They always get a curve in the tip. But it's still good for now. Go. We'll just do his tail and then we'll do another coat on the pimples. I'm calling them pimples, I don't know what they are. I don't know whether you can hear, whether the mic's picking that up, but there's a couple guinea fowls outside the shed just screaming their heads off right now. Something's upset them. All right, I think that's it for the pink. For now, we will try the shade on him later, but we'll do the base coat on the very bottom now. So it's sort of like a sandy cream or tan colour. I've got some, what's it called? Ushabi bone. Sort of that colour. I rewatched the video of this the other week and I didn't realise every time I shake a pot I pull a really funny face. I've probably been doing it my entire life, and I didn't even know I was doing it until I rewatched myself painting. Trying not to do it now, but I did find that was quite funny. Oh geez, there's still some pink in that. Oops. Alright, so I'll get rid of that bit. Don't cross-contaminate your paints. Or try not to. If I wasn't on camera, I probably would have just ignored that and dealt with it. So this is same again. This is a thinner paint for base coating. We might have to do a couple of layers. It is a better colour than the pink, so it should come through a bit better. But maybe we'll have to do at least 2 coats. So I know it's kind of disgusting, but these are water-based paints, so sucking on your brush and twisting as you suck sort of gives you a nice fine point, which I've been doing it for years. I haven't died yet. Yeah, this is pretty thin. Maybe I should have done the pimples last. We got in there all right. Tricky bit. I know who you're talking about. What was his name? Two Thin Coats. Yeah, the famous Warhammer guy. Used to do all their painting tutorials. Duncan Rhodes, I think it is. Probably a much more skilled painter than I am. I believe he's got his own YouTube channel now. Don't know whether it's still around. We will have to touch that pink up later on the pimples. See, it might look like I've got a steady hand to get into those cracks, but I don't. It's just how I hold my model and how I hold my hand. So I'm sort of using my hand underneath to steady my hand on the model and on the base. And if everything stays still, hopefully I don't mess it up. See, it's not about being good, it's about knowing the tricks. Which sort of comes naturally just with time and experience. And then I messed that one up. But we'll touch it up later. If you look at the underside of him, it's very, very, very liney. So I don't think we'll paint the underside. We might put a coat of beige on him just to, I don't know. No one's ever going to look at it, but I might put one coat on there. But we won't do that right now because we won't be able to put the model down to let him dry. I once entered a model I painted, a big model. It was a Titan, not a Titan, a Knight, into a painting competition. And all the visible parts of the model were painted really well. I thought I was going to win the competition. And underneath the foot, which was slightly elevated. It wasn't sitting on a base. I hadn't painted it, and I was pulled up and deducted points for not painting that, and I didn't win the competition. So always paint underneath your models. Lessons learned. Who would have thought that after painting miniature war games for years and years and years, I'd end up painting an Illuvial for a crypto game on stream. It's quite a jump. I don't know whether Illuvium will actually get any good marketing out of this. I've got a pretty small channel, but I'm grateful for the opportunity. It's been a bit of fun, and it's been quite a while since I painted anything, so it's nice to give it a go again. All right, that's the first layer of tan done, and you can sort of still see the grey coming through there. So we will definitely put another coat on. Probably get started straight away. It's pretty dry on the front. Yeah, this has been a good brush so far, but it's starting to hold a funny shape. So that's what you get for a $10 brush. Still works though. messed that up. Yeah, definitely going to have to fix these pimples up. Oh, 50 minutes already. Yeah, I think we'll probably need one more stream to finish him off. Not sure when we'll do it because things are getting pretty chaotic around Christmas time here. We've still got a bit to do tonight though. Okay, that's looking pretty good on the tan. We'll just touch up those pink pimples. I'll put the wash on last because that's going to, once we put the wash on, the model's going to have to sit there probably for an hour or two before we can paint another section. So if we put the washes on last, that way we can end the stream with that. I still got some of my pink mixed. So we'll just dive straight in there. Using a wet palette. So once you mix paint on a wet palette, it stays pretty wet for quite a while. So if you have to go back, your paint's still mixed. Which is not something I've traditionally bothered with, but I thought it'd be a bit more professional and give it a go. And it's pretty cool. Thanks, Harbinger. Okay, that's looking better. Alright, so probably the last bit before we do the wash I want to touch up, and we'll use a finer brush for this, is a edge highlight on some of the raised details on the shell. That brush. This is a new brush, I haven't used this one before. Okay, so we will need a mixing tray. We're gonna use the purple we used last week for the final layer of dry brush. We're going to mix it with a tiny bit of white just to make a slightly lighter colour. And we're not going to put much of this on, it's going to be very sparing. But hopefully it'll just make that shell pop a little bit more. Okay. So usually use an edge highlight on a model that has a very straight edge, and this guy doesn't have the straightest of edges. So we're going to be very sparing with this because it does look pretty good already. We don't want to overdo it. Start at the back. That's too wet. If I don't get the effect I want, there we go. Yeah, that looks all right. So the shell sort of is the, well, at least it's turning out to be the centerpiece of the model. That's where all the detail is. So with an edge highlight, you can use the tip of the brush, but I like to use the side of the brush as long as you place the brush properly, you just leave a thin line on a raised area. You don't want too much paint on the brush. You can go overboard with it if you put too much on. So sometimes it's better just to put it on the corners. Especially the really raised bits. Then you get a nice contrast from the bright to the dark, and it looks like the model's got more detail. There's no hard rule on where you've got to put it, but some of the more obvious raised areas are the best spots to put it, in my opinion. Not got a very good edge on the front of the shell. It's not turning out the best. I don't know whether you can see the difference there, but the highlight should be just popping out a little bit more now. About done. Dropped our connection. Okay, we just lost connection there for a sec. Hopefully it's reconnected. I think it's all right. Looks like it's still working. So this is a fairly minor upgrade for Wrinkle, but it's these little touches that will take a model from looking, oh yeah, pretty good, to really popping, standing out a bit more. Probably didn't have to do this, but I don't like doing half jobs. Okay, he's looking pretty good. So the last thing we'll do, we'll just put an ink on the pink and the tan. Hopefully we don't get them mixed together. And that will darken the pink, and then we can highlight the pink. I don't think we'll highlight the tan. We will definitely put a shadow in there, especially in the lip, where his mouth is. We definitely need an ink in that groove just to put a little bit of contrast into the bottom of the model. So we'll start with the pink. Now I think this is going to be too dark, so I think I can water it down with this. Now this could drastically change the colour of the pink, but if it does, we can layer it up to a brighter colour in the next stream. I hate almost finishing a model and then messing it up at the end. So I tend to get less adventurous with my painting techniques as I get closer to finishing a model, because it's just you're almost there. You don't want to mess it up and have to repaint something, or maybe repaint the main area of the model. That would be a tragedy. Oops. Yes, this is a magic trick, basically. It's one of those painting tricks where you paint shadows in the easiest possible way. people think you're really good, but you're really just spreading an ink over the top of another colour. It's really easy. Anyone can do it. So this is a product the paint shops sell you. It's called Drach'Nyen medium. And every time they explain to me how it works differently than water, I still don't understand what they're saying. So I'm not sure whether it's a con or a real thing. But apparently it's really good for thinning down inks. So we'll use their method. As long as it works, I don't care if I'm getting conned. Alright, this is still quite red. See how it turns out. Yeah, I always say if someone's trying to sell you something and they can't explain to you why it's better than something else, or at least explain to you how it works in a way that you understand, then they're probably trying to take advantage of you. In this case, they might be selling me something I don't need. But as long as it works, I don't care. This will look very different when it dries too. Drying a little bit too fast for my liking. Sort of want a bit more ink in that eye socket, or the wrinkles around his eyes. This is what we call the ugly phase of the model, where it sort of looks like you've messed it up, but once you put the next layer of pink over the top of this, we just leave those shadows in there, and it should look quite good if I haven't messed it up. I think we're actually only going to get the one ink on, because I don't want to put the tan ink on and cross contaminate. Probably going to have to wait for it to dry. So this will probably be it for the night. Okay, there we go. So, no, sorry, Katniss, you can't use the dryer on the ink because it actually moves the pigment around too much, and then you end up with funny patches. So that's probably it for tonight. The shell's pretty much done. The only thing I'm tempted to do on the shell now is maybe put some glowy patches coming out of the holes, like they've got in the picture on the left there. That might be a bit tricky. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to do that, but we could experiment with the airbrush. I'll just take some of that ink off there. I don't like how that's pulled. So once this dries, I'll probably do this off camera. I'll do the ink on the bottom as well, and then touch up his eyes. Think about some glowy effects in those holes, and yeah, then he'll pretty much be done. Anyway, hopefully we'll do the next one on Friday next week. Not sure because it's getting pretty close to Christmas, so we'll see what happens. I'll post a link on X and YouTube when it's ready to go. Anyway, thanks for joining, and I'll see you all next week.